Hello and welcome to my channel. We usually do world building stuff here. Lately I've been doing some rules type stuff, breaking things down, mostly for noobs. Uh, this is also going to be one of those videos that you have to suffer through me basically reading off a sheet of paper in front of me. It's kind of a practice thing, but we'll practice it while I torture you. We're going for better sound quality today. That's what this little guy is. This is how I've been doing it for my regular videos. It looks sillier when you can see my face, but deal with it and hopefully you can hear me better. Uh, I've been doing this stuff since '86. Those of you who have been listening to my channel for a while know this. That's when I ran my first campaign, drew my first map, started building my first world. More importantly, for today's issues, we're talking about setting up encounters and how to run them kind of from start to finish. I had a lot of friends, players with exceedingly high expectations and standards, and I made a lot of mistakes, and they didn't let me get away with any of them. We fussed and fought and developed, and over the years, I've gotten pretty good at this, I think. I'm running a campaign now, and it's been successful for about a year. Nobody's left yet, so I can't be screwing up too bad, right? Uh, so what do? It's less than a week to game day, and you want to run a fight. Where do you start? How do you do it right? How do you make it good? Balancing these things is not easy. It takes some luck, and you are never, ever, always going to get it right. You'll never get to that point because it's a lot of random, unfortunately. And a lot of the interesting creatures, well, they're glass cannons. Uh, it's going to go one way or the other. And yes, you can affect it, but, saves and stuff, they're going to affect it more. Crazy decisions by players, things that they pull out of their bags of holding that you had kind of forgotten about or didn't think that they would be willing to expend something. The other way to make a tough fight is these big old bags of hit points. I love giants, but that's what they are. It's not a real creative fight. I'm not saying don't use them. They have their place. They're fun. I love giants, hill giants, stone giants, all of them. A fifth level party versus a mind flayer, it can be a slaughter either direction. Party gets a jump on them, the thing's dead before it can mind blast. On the other hand, if you can distract the fighter, first couple of rounds, a few failed saves, you're gonna have some party death, very likely. First big point: talk to your players. This is a good session zero subject, but if you're already into the game, talk to them anyway. What is their tolerance and expectation when it comes to combat? Do they want to play in a game that sometimes you're going to have virtually the whole 4-hour session full of fighting? Do they want to play in a game where every once in a while a player is just going to die? I ran a campaign a long time ago. One player made it all the way through. Some people went through many, many characters. Some people played characters for 30 sessions, and then they were just gone. They died. Dragon scoops somebody up, drops them into an ocean, gone. Bad rolls can tear things up. Let's see. As you're trying to build more challenging fights, just remember, not every fight needs to be challenging. I only do maybe one every 3 sessions that I really kind of want to threaten the party. These fights take a long time, and I'm not a role-playing guy, DM necessarily. I develop NPCs, obviously, but so I don't run out long conversations at every inn the party goes to, but I do the set building, the world building, So I want to do things and move forward and see how the party responds to events and how they influence events. It's that ground in between fighting and just pure role play. It's decision making. You know, that's the fun. Not always, okay, here's another bunch of monsters. Here's another bunch of monsters. Here's a dungeon. Here's this. It's, okay, here's your fight. It serves a purpose. You might get some clues. Sometimes it's just for fun. All right, I'm getting way distracted here. What does my sheet say? There's my first big concept. We talked about that. Every fight doesn't have to be maxed out. Make terrain matter. That's one way to add a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be crazy monsters. It might be a bunch of goblins, but they're 20 feet up a difficult climb. So it challenged the players. And this depends upon level. The higher level the party gets, the harder it is to challenge them. Enjoy yourself as best you can as a DM with some crazy shenanigans before the party is the one pulling crazy shenanigans on you. All right, let's see what page 2 leads us. More on balance. Single monsters, remember, and learn this lesson. It's going to happen, but then you're going to convince yourself, no, this monster, this is the one. Just increasing CR levels isn't really the answer. Single monsters are just very susceptible to getting beat down on, getting incapacitated. Just 2 spellcasters in the group, and that means 2 saves potentially before they ever get to do something. And when you're competing against hold persons and even worse stuff, even stuff like grease. I mean, it's simple spells that can completely take a monster out for a turn, and that's all it takes when you've got the party marshals, even 3rd, 4th, 5th level, doing 40, 50, 60 points. At 7th level, a fighter can easily do 100 points of burst damage in a round, and your monster doesn't even get to swing. And if they do get to swing, oh, what if they miss? I mean, you got 1 monster. That's a lousy action economy. Give the guy some friends. Burst damage, front line, 100 points. Yeah, part of that math, figure out what your party can do for burst damage. What's a good round for them, and then if it's 100 hit points, make sure your monster has 200. At least it'll be something to talk about. Maybe they'll get a swing, 2 swings. Give them time to make things happen, because these monsters have good damage too. I mean, they a few good rolls and they can beat down not necessarily your fighter or your barbarian, but you can put down the frontline cleric fast, reduce their damage output, and maybe make some things happen. Remember, your goal is not to win; it's to challenge. So, don't get emotionally invested. The time has come. The party will face 3 ogres, a hill giant, and a pair of orc shaman. Kind of making up the shaman thing. It's easy to do. Any humanoid race, you can give somebody a few spells to cast. I mean, you could do it to the hill giant. You could do it to the ogres. In this case, I'm going with orcs because the idea of spell casting orcs is pretty normal. I'm going to make one a cleric-ish type, the other one arcane. The cleric dude, don't worry about healing. It doesn't matter. Giving somebody in a fight like this 20 points of healing even it's a waste. But give your monsters the ability to cast whole person, do to them what they do to you. Oh yeah, make them make those saves. It won't work every time, but it'll work enough, and there'll be that fight that there's 3 failed saves, and all of a sudden it's turned into very, very dangerous ground for them, and they have to actually think about what they're doing. My arcane guy, we're going to put we're going to give him, sorry, just trying to catch up with my notes here. Eldritch Blast, he's going to use the heck out of that. Well, we're going to give him a counter spell too, just to completely throw the spellcaster off balance. You know, maybe he can only do it once. Maybe you give it to him twice. But give the monsters a chance to have fun, and you a chance to have fun. Let's see. So how that transition from there are the monsters to getting into initiative, it can be a little intimidating. It can be a little rough. I start with range. Just in my head as I'm doing prep, either before the session, as I'm planning, or before the battle. How far away is this thing going to start? Um, it might be miles away in plains. It might be less than 100 feet in forest. Depends a lot upon the monsters. But talking specifically about these guys, I mean, in heavy forest, that hill giant can be close. I mean, I've told you the story about surprising a bull. I mean, that thing was 3 feet away when I knew it was there. I've been ambushed in woods by big ass owls, by whooping cranes, by dogs, by bulls. I mean, it happens. You get thinking about something, and especially when you're in a group, you get chitter chattering, and all of a sudden, there's the threat. In real life, your threat, usually wants to get away from you as much as you want to get away from it. But these are monsters. These are trained combatants, and they like to hurt people, so they're not going to run away. They're going to take their opportunity to get in a fight with some PCs and make a mark for themselves. Let's see. I've got a side note here. What's our side note? Sometimes, usually, occasionally, depends on my mood, I guess. I don't know. I wrote this. Why am I rambling myself on here? Oh yeah, Rangers, Druids, characters that are survivally people, have some good survival skill, have invested effort and role playing into it. Take them into account when you're in these situations. If you're running a wilderness campaign and you have wilderness oriented characters, give them a break. They deserve to be able to use these tricks to their advantage. Surprise. Surprise is way stressed out about, misunderstood. I messed it up for a long time. I mean, I blame part of that on one of my players because he didn't want to be surprised, and he was a ranger. And back in advanced D&D, rangers didn't get surprised. What the heck do you do with that? You're never surprised over anything. We eventually figured it out, and probably since then I have figured it out just how I run things like that even better. Most of it is just don't stress out. Figure out something simple. If the player doesn't like it, he'll learn to live with it. Just make sure that you take his advantages into consideration, but don't let him overdo it. See here. Make this part of your planning. Determine encounter range as part of your prep, and think about how your players might respond so you can be ready. Now, that doesn't mean that the monsters are going to know what the players are going to do. The monsters are probably going to, have no idea what the party is capable of. But it means that if you think that the party's just going to close on the monsters, then you can think about the terrain and the things that are there, and how that's going to proceed as far as difficult terrain and that kind of thing goes. What is the party seeing at 200 feet, at 100 feet, at 20 feet? A few examples. You're in plains. You notice a hill giant. He's got some support. They are 1,000 feet away. You don't think they've noticed you. What do you do? Or you see them. They're moving to close. What do you do? Example number 2. You're in hill country. Some patches of forest here and there, some rough terrain. The animals are acting strange. A squirrel tells the druid that there's danger ahead. Big danger. Tall people. The party moves stealthily and gets a surprise round. Or you are in hill country. You've had a few problems getting through a muddy patch on the trail. You've gotten yourself a little distracted. Quick take a quick moment, maybe cleaning your boots, a little chit chat, a little making fun of each other. You know what? You mentioned that mud. It's very possible your players are going to help you out and say that they throw mud at each other. A giant. It's a mere 20 feet away, coming out of the brush. I knew I smelt dinner. And charges with his minions. Do I remember 3? Yes, I do. I do have a number 3. You're in low mountains. You spot a group of humanoids from 200 feet away. The terrain is rough, including a river with steep banks and several points where either group might find cover. What do? There are an infinite number of ways that a fight might open. So make sure that you mix it up. Don't always do it the same. I used to have this thing that your party emerges from forest into a small glade. At the same time, a party of the bad guys enters it from the other side. Encounter range is 40 feet. Roll initiative. Boring. I can't tell you how many times I did that. Yeah, mix it up. Remember that players deserve to have their advantages sometimes. I know I've said that a few times. And so do you with your monsters. That's why mixing things up helps you. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, you're going to end up covering all your bases over time. That's why prep That's why prep helps you, because you can think this out. Does you have a ravine to cross? Does your monster jump? Does it glide? Should you add one? Should you change your monster once you figure out what your terrain is to make it interesting? Sometimes you want your monsters to have an advantage, sometimes a disadvantage. If you have determined the party will almost definitely have a lot of prep time, you can add some more monsters. You can bump up their hit points a little bit. You can throw in some extra abilities. You can give them a bag of methods that they can just, unleash against the party and tilt the odds. If the monsters are getting a big advantage, be careful not to overdo it. You want to challenge the group. You're not going out of your way to slaughter the group. However, I will be honest, talking about balance, PCs do crap. I sometimes consider, okay, this is going to be a tough fight. I'm probably wrong because I'm usually wrong. Double it. Okay, maybe not double, but you get the idea. You don't have to have a battle map for every fight, but most of the best fights start with a battle map. You don't have to create one. There's thousands of them out on the internets. I mean, they're everywhere. There's probably another 500 have appeared since I started this video. I mean, you can even find them on My Incarnate. I mean, why do I pronounce it that way? Incarnate. They're free. They're cheap. To me, the advantage, it's not about the distances so much or the angles. It lets you take full advantage of the terrain. You can see it there. You know how to work with it. You can mark all kinds of stuff. You can have your own personal map too. Don't forget like pit traps and holes with snakes in them and all kinds of cool stuff. Net traps. So many things you can do to mess up a party. Yeah. Hidden rattlesnake den. That's what I was trying to say. I recently ran a high stakes combat encounter where my enemy had my bad guys. They had beads of force. All that a party had to do, one of the fighters just had to fail one save. I knew the terrain. It was a slope, a long slope, not steep but long. Oh, just one failed save, and one of those fighters would have just been bouncing around down that slope for miles. It would have changed the whole nature of the combat. Throw those in. You can't control whether your party makes a saving throw or not. It's a debate whether you should control whether your monsters make saving throws. I don't even use a DM screen. I'm pretty okay with just letting random fate take over. But that's up to you. I will say it gets really annoying for a player if every time you cast a spell, the monster saves. This isn't AD&D. It's not that easy to consistently save. If you make 4 saves in a row, I'm going to suspect that you're cheating. Sorry. Amusement. Yeah, they ruined my amusement. This emphasizes how you will never be able to stage these things just right. A few weeks later, I ran an encounter with a beholder. Went completely the other way. First character death in the party. They failed 7 saves in a row between them. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that they were cheating the other way, trying to get themselves killed. They were running for their lives fairly quickly. Yeah. Oh, shocked some color into my shirt. Discovered something. I take up a lot of time freelancing, blabbering, expanding on my notes. For instance, right now, we've already done 18 seconds off script. This video is going to be long, and I'm just going with it because I like torturing you, just like players like torturing DMs. What was the other thing? I had another thing. Maybe that was the only thing. All right, we're going to move on. Catching up on points. Handy piece of advice. Determine your monster's treasure ahead of time. If they have stuff that they can use, they can use it. They should use it. Definitely should use it. I am going to try to go a little bit quicker, just so this becomes a manageable video, but, whatever. Most important thing, right at the top of the day, second day of recording, we're going to hit our highlight right here. Pay attention. Don't forget your dramatic introduction. This might just be establishing the weather, setting the stage, the terrain, what the characters see, what time of day is it. It vary this kind of stuff too. I mean, evening encounters, morning encounters, hit them in the camp, hit them on the road, hit them at lunch, all of it. Mix it up. Make yourself a chart. Lighting conditions. Is it cloudy? Is it and you're going to have your circumstances of your world too, right? I mean, you're going to have different moons out. There's all kinds of things that could, vary. Sometimes you get to do the really cool stuff, though. Oh, I'm just going to read this. You've been traveling down a large open tunnel for miles. It's wide enough for 4 wagons abreast to pass safely. Ahead, you hear a low growl. A puff of charged air comes into range of your vision. Then it withdraws, sucked in by something massive. A reptilian foot the size of a man steps forward, followed by a massive black head of a dragon. He lets loose a deafening roar. Initiatives. Your monsters can call initiatives. Do it. It's fun. Remember that 5e, 100% turn-based. There's no opportunity for a player to jump in and say, hey, while he's doing that, I'm going to do this. It doesn't work that way. Your monsters get their turns. The players get their turns. There's room for some monologuing. Don't overdo it. I mean, you can overdo your intro. They can deal with it. But in game, don't overdo it. Keep in mind, combat round at 6 seconds. I would suggest, pushing your players a little bit to make quick decisions. Don't over strategize mid-battle. But that's up to you, how you guys feel about it. Don't be a jerk. Just find some middle ground, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever they're comfortable with. And if you're into the whole storytelling thing, I mean, if that kind of thing is in your wheelhouse, play up on it. Whatever you're good at, play up on it. Now, going to initiatives can be a little fluid, even confusing, especially if there's been a long closing time or there's, odd circumstances. Sometimes it's hard to know when to go from just asking what you do and taking actions and to actually go to a hard initiative. My suggestion here is it's better to go too early than too late. If you go early, sure, you might have some rounds that most players, all they can do, well, I move closer, but that's okay. That means that you're also playing up their movement rates. The faster characters get the advantage they should over slower. That includes monsters. It allows strategy, requiring the faster characters to slow down, or maybe they can flank or whatever. But the party has to think about what they're doing. The other thing it does is I would bet if you've got 4 players in your group that 1 or 2 of them are quiet. They don't like having to speak up to be heard. They feel like they're ignored a lot of the time, maybe. That's a whole different thing. But going into initiatives gives them a set turn where the other players they need to be quiet, let them do their thing. Sure, there can be some interaction, there can be advice, especially for people that are just learning. But they get their time to do their thing. People left out. Now, action economy is a big deal in 5e. I know it doesn't feel like it if you haven't played older versions, but 5e, you can do a lot of stuff compared to the old advanced D&D. I mean, literally, it used to be, okay, ones. Does anybody have a 1 initiative? Oh, yeah, I do. I'm the mage. Zing! You cast 1 magic missile. Maybe you get to move a little bit. You do a d4 plus 1, and then you just shut the heck up until it's your turn again. It can be forever that you feel like you're not doing anything. And I know it can now, but it was even worse back then. So, you've got actions, bonus actions, reactions. There's a lot that you can do compared to the old way. I know it's what you get used to, but trust me, the game's getting better. Every time, getting better. Now, the point of this is that obstacles can burn actions. If you've got to make a streak check to get past it, then that's their action. That's a strength check. If they, have to make a athletics check to leap a ditch, that's their option. But it's an action. The other thing they can do if they don't want to turn an action, if they want to get in a bow shot, maybe they can work their way around. It's farther, but they still get their attack. So that kind of terrain and paying attention to the action economy forces the players to make choices. And more importantly, the players get to make choices because they like doing that. And that's why they exist in the game. Otherwise, it'd just be DMs if players didn't get to make choices. Sometimes the game might be better with just DMs. Do you ever think about that? If it's just you? Do you need players? Yeah, this is why I burn so much time. Getting distracted again. Good example might be a barbarian trying to get through a wooden barricade. The ones in Skyrim. That's the prototype of all RPG barricades. I mean, the meshed, the crisscrossing logs. Perfect. You got options. You can hack it with your big axe, do damage to it. You can try to just overwhelm it. You can go around it. There's all kinds of options. Weaker barricades and characters with higher strength. Don't forget about passive strength. I mean, passive scores aren't just for perception. Let's say you're a higher level. You've got somebody with a 22 or even a 24 strength because of something or other of giant strength, or maybe they just took a potion, or whatever. Their passive strength might be high enough to pass through things that you would normally think would need a check. If they just bowl through it, I mean, they're going to have to be thinking about this too. It's up to them a little bit, but uh, that might be an advantage on their part. But mostly this video, we're talking about 5, 6, 7th level at the most. A lot of it even lower than that. But yeah, make them burn actions. Maybe they burn a spell to get past some stuff. Maybe they're doing fly spells. The whole time, the goblins in the tower are firing arrows. The bad guys are doing their things. The enemy spellcasters are doing their things. And maybe the monsters have people coming up on the flank. It gives them more time to move. All things have passive barricades. Now, not all checks. Checks and saves are different. Remember that. Checks take actions. Saves do not. So if they're breaking through this barricade and they have to make a save because it's maybe got poison on it or something, they have to make a save versus Constitution or take damage, or maybe it's a little firebomb, reflex check, or reflex save. It's not an action. It's just something they have to do, and then, it doesn't affect their action economy. Same thing goes if a sheer face must be climbed, scaled to get to the bad guy. If the player is making a choice to move up this cliff. Now, maybe they don't have to make checks, but if you rule that they do because it's slippery, they're going to be informed of that, and it's their choice whether to attempt it. If they attempt it, they're burning actions to make checks to make progress. If there's, say a trap, maybe there's some grease up there or something, and they have to make a save at some point, then that's not their action. All of these things, they don't have to be super hard and fast. I mean, there can be some middle ground. Just make sure you know what you're doing. This is a good thing to do in your prep, is decide whether something is a check or a save, whether it burns an action. And you can vary this for, you can give allowances for people that are particularly skilled, not just high scores, but like a thief that has practiced climbing and stuff, that, maybe has exceptional skills and stuff. Which that's talking about advanced skills, a little bit beyond the book. I did a video that touched on that. I'll never remember to connect a link, so you're on your own. It wasn't too long ago. Let's see. Sheer cliff. You're always striving. When you're doing this, you're always striving to improve your methods. You're not going to be great at it when you first start. It's just, you're not. It took me years. Maybe I'm still not there. I don't know. I can't get my players to criticize me, so maybe I suck, but they're still playing, so it's their problem, not mine. Your main goal is to keep things moving. If somebody is questioning your ruling, what I normally do is allow them to say their piece briefly. If anybody else has input, briefly, they can give their input. If you hear what they're saying and think they're actually right and you were wrong, change it. No big deal. But if you don't, just tell them, okay, for now, we're going to stick to it. We're going to do it my way. We can talk about it more later. I'll think on it more later, and maybe the next time it'll be your way. I'm looping around in my script here, but this comes back to where you're always refining your methods. Don't be afraid of seeking criticism, accepting criticism, and learning from it. Also, don't get pushed around. You're the DM. You're in charge of that table. All right. Something else that gets a lot of complication. The surprise round. Surprise round basically means that you are in initiatives because it's a round, but not everybody gets to act. Some people are unaware of what's happening. There's a few ways you can do this. If you just have a few people that are initiating the combat, assuming it's a combat, initiatives usually mean combat, then maybe you give them a surprise round. Now go ahead and have everybody roll initiatives. The advantage to this is even if people don't get to act, you can, fill things in on what's happening as the round passes. Once again, technically, rules as written, it's a 6-second round and everything is kind of happening at once. Turn-based is the way you manage it, but you can still reveal information as the round goes on. Figure out what works for you and run with it. So yeah, if a player is surprised, maybe he failed a perception check, maybe he was doing something that that just doesn't give him a chance to get an early action, then he doesn't get to act. So yeah, the idea of revealing information is, maybe 2 of the monsters and 2 of the players get to take their actions. Comes around to one of the monsters' turn. He's attacking a fighter that is not fully aware. Fighter doesn't get his shield bonus. Almost definitely doesn't. Consider circumstances, but you can tell him there's a frog-like being with a long sword whacking you. Give him his damage if he hits, and then move on. Surprise rounds, you're probably not going to have, all that prep time. There's not going to be mage armor up. There's not going to be shields up. You might force people, or at least take into account drawing of weapons. You only get one object interaction. So if you have to draw a sword, that means you can't also draw a potion. Or, once again, very fluid stuff. Pick up your habits and stick to them. And then at the beginning of the next round, everybody gets to go. And you already have your initiatives in place. So here's the biggest thing on this subject. What do you do if everybody's talking, good guys and bad guys, party and adversaries, it's a little bit tense, and the fighter just says, I'm going to hit the guy? Is that a surprise round? Honestly, I'm usually going to say no. I'm going to tell everybody to roll initiatives. I'm going to set up my initiative order, and that fighter, he doesn't have to roll. He goes first. He's starting the combat round. Just because you're moving to do damage, to make an effective attack, doesn't mean that it's instant. Especially when you're dealing with this idea of such a short combat round. People who know what's going on, they might get to go before him. He shuffles forward, draws back, and the quick draw samurai is already taken. I don't know, is that a thing in D&D? I've never actually studied up on samurai. Anyway, he takes his swing, the monk gets to jab somebody, the spellcaster whips off a quick mage armor. It'd suck if he went last, but, crap happens. Maybe he got overexcited and missed his chance. But, like I said, normally I'm going to let them go first. I'm not going to make them roll initiative. This is a place where you might ask everybody for perception checks. Probably a moderate DC, 15 or something, 14, 13. And if they make it, then they get to act. And also, it's okay if you just give the guy a free attack. I mean, if this is a fighter thief with high reflexes, maybe he deserves it. Just let him take the punch, gets in a few points damage, move on. That doesn't mean you have to give him all 2 of his attacks and an action surge. He doesn't necessarily get a whole round of action. He just gets a swat in. Once again, very fluid. It doesn't have to be the same every time. No circumstance is exactly the same. Just pick what looks right, go with it. Don't allow arguments. This is how it is this time. Let's move forward. Uh, um, why do we care about passive perception here? Over 5th level. Totally up to you. Shouldn't be. Whatever. Hey, sidebar. That's what we were just doing. Um, if the PCs have stuff, this has to do with a really high passive perception, but I think I missed my moment with that. But if they can have this stuff, so can the monsters, the bad guys. A guard patrolling with a 26 passive perception, he's going to be a little random challenge for the party. And if you've got a party of over 5th level players, there's a pretty good chance that you've got somebody that went buku crazy on perception, and you have to deal with it. So make your players have to deal with it every once in a while. Not every time, just every once in a while. During a parlay, yep, we did that. Huh, no wonder I got stuff out of order. Alternately, yeah, alright. Moving right along. This, oh, look at that. This is our last page for the night. Oh, yeah, we got another, this is going to be an hour-long freaking video. I told you, I'm here to torch you. I'm probably going to have to split this thing into 2 parts to make it, to get it uploaded. I said all that. Maybe I'm farther than I think I am. Holding actions. I don't have my players asked to hold actions a whole lot. I'm starting to think it should be more common. I think it's something that players can really take advantage of. I'm going to start trying to do it with my own players. I'm in a couple of games myself. But it definitely, I mean, it's basically you're right there on a knife's edge, ready to zap somebody, whatever that might be. Once again, it's probably not going to be the whole round of action. It's going to be whatever your DM lets you get away with. Respect their decisions, but it's not a bad idea if you're in a tense situation already, just to state, I'm holding an attack. I'm holding a spell. It might escalate things, but who cares? It's D&D. You want to fight something anyway. When the hill giant says that he's holding an attack, the players, know that it's for real. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, maybe not. Hesitate to, stifling objections. It's combat, especially opening combat. It's going to be chaotic. It's your table. Take control. At the same time, don't be a dick. 2 kinds of initiative. I don't know what's the most normal. My guess is that you should pick one and stick with it, and not change it depending upon the circumstances, especially in a given campaign. If you're running 2 campaigns, maybe try both different ways, but see what you like better. The first one is what I use. Everybody rolls, and that's what you've got for the rest of the fight. So the fight order is established. It's cyclical. There's generally no weird turn order. One of the things I do with fumbles is actually the only thing I do with fumbles, that I barely even track this anymore, but you lose your spot. You go to the next spot if you fumble. You still get your full round's action. It's just next round you're one down the list. It's a way for a fumble to have an impact. Problem with that is, I'm sure you've heard this discussion, people that get lots of attacks are supposed, it's not supposed to make them worse, but it certainly increases the chance they're going to fumble, so maybe it does make them worse. So be careful what you do, how you penalize things. The other way to do it is re-roll at the beginning of every turn. Thing is, what this does, maybe you go into combat, you're fighting that hill giant, some ogres. You decide you're going to go after the spellcasters first. you're maneuvering on them, you're doing a lot of damage the first round. The Hill Giant, bored to death, finally gets to go at the end of the turn. So he takes a step forward, kabammo, kabammo, hits the War Cleric. Next turn, he rolls a 20 for initiative. War Cleric, kabammo, kabammo. So before anybody gets to do anything, he gets 4 shots on one player for God knows how much damage. What, like a Hill Giant can, so what, 60 points of damage. More if he gets lucky with a crit. So that's one of the reasons. Mostly I do it for the sake of time, but that's one reason to be careful. The whole thing with rolling initiative every time. God, imagine the other end if you're a PC. You go in one, woohoo, battle's barely unrolled, you kind of take an action, you're not sure what's going on and how things are going to play out. 2 full rounds to develop before you get to do anything again, because the next round you re-roll poorly. Anyway. We're going to finish this up on Thursday. Of course, it's all the same to you. One 6-hour video of me rambling. Again, deal with it. Put in the comments how you like this. I don't expect this to be a great video. I might redo it at some point into smaller videos. I might turn it into shorts. That would make more sense. But I'm also curious how this format does. I've had some hit and miss with, my face and your face, you're on the other side of the screen. Like, comment, do your work. I don't know why I'm doing a full outro here. I've got 2 more pages to go. Yeah. Bam! I'm back. Oh, I don't have my thingy plugged in. Hold on. So things didn't work out exactly as planned. I was going to finish recording Thursday night and instead laid down for a 5-minute rest that turned into, went to bed really early last night. That's the thing about getting old. That's the thing about getting old. Thing running? Yeah, we're good. All right. But let's get into it. We're going to finish up today. And then I'm going to load this ridiculously long video. No edits. You're going to have to put up with all the crap. I still plan on chopping it into shorts to make it more manageable. Of course, at this point, if you've listened to it this far, you might as well listen to the whole thing. So let's just go. We were talking about initiative. I also use shared initiative. If 2 players or monsters have the same number, I allow them to mingle their turns for potential and certainly more dramatic effects. This is where I allow some negotiations too, so rather than just doing some fancy stuff like they normally do, they might be able to do some things extra. Like, the best example that I've had so far was a little negotiation for the druid turning into a giant monkey and throwing the barbarian for a ridiculous amount of damage. She basically, she one-shotted a hill giant. It was a lot of fun. That was part of a very big fight. Could have gone a lot of different ways. Have fun with your players, gamble a little bit. Give them some potentially spectacular moves for, rolling some high dice. Now, I don't know why I didn't put this earlier. We were talking about different forms of initiative. I did do an arena thing. I hope I didn't say this last time. This might be a repeat. Enjoy. I did an arena thing a few weeks ago and used a different initiative order every single turn. So it did give a chance for some big flip-flops. But these weren't with regular characters, and there were new monsters and players, or, well, characters, coming in and out of the fight constantly. It was meant to be chaotic, and it was quite a bit of fun. Maybe after some more experimentation, we'll do a video on my style of doing an arena combat. Ending the battle can be just as confusing, just as challenging as starting one. Don't hesitate to institute a mop-up phase. especially if you're just fighting thugs. If you've got your party fighting a horde of goblins or whatever, if their morale breaks, and for stuff like that, you should track morale. Some of them try to surrender. Maybe a few pockets keep fighting. Most of them are running. It's just, well, it doesn't hurt if the whole battle's chaos, but it gets even worse. Hard to run. And the parties, if it looks like the parties won the thing, uh, just let it go. Ask for how they handle things for role playing purposes, but you don't have to roll out every single part of it, especially the chasing down of the last stragglers. And don't be afraid that some of them are going to get away. Use dice rolls, uh, make your rulings, and the players will just have to live with it. That in mind, keep in mind PCs, especially. I guess all leveled characters, but they can do some really wild stuff. They can move really quick. They can track really well. So if they're a survival type group, then a wilderness type group, then maybe there are no survivors. But this is all assuming, of course, that you are not planning a second stage. You can do false retreats from your monsters. You can do tactics. You can have them withdraw uh, into assistance. You can have waves of monsters show up late. So you may have waxing and waning in a long battle, and you can draw it out however you want to. You can make it nice tight fights, or you can have a freaking 3 session knockdown drag out. Hell, figure out a way to throw, for somebody to make a god call and get a long rest in the middle of the fight to recharge about the time the second wave of hill giant shows up. Again, mix things up. I mean, don't mix god calls up. That should be a once in a campaign kind of thing, unless you go really, really high. But mix things up as far as if you drag a fight out, if there's multiple waves, if everything just starts clumped, because it makes the players have to really think about how they're managing resources. On the one hand, there's nothing better than watching them struggle because they think things are going to get worse, so they withhold their powers. But it's also just as fun whenever the party uses way too much, strength potion, two third level spell slots, action surge, all that's gone. And you haven't even got to the fight you really planned on, being interesting. That's when the beholders show up. It is completely worth it to the bad guys, especially these humanoid thug types, to sacrifice their cannon fodder to make the party expend some of those cannons that they're not going to be able to reload. Most campaigns, you're talking about these guys are true evil. They don't care about their own lives any more than especially the lives of their men, any more than they care about any other life. Even if you don't use alignments, I mean, these guys are still, in most cases, the true, don't no ethical quandaries kind of bad guys. On the other hand, maybe the monster surrenders. Give your players decisions that they have to make. What do you do? And the last pair of hill giants, it's a male and a female, and they just hold their hands like they know it's the end. And the male just throws down his weapon and says, "Okay, you win." I wouldn't necessarily hold it against players, depending upon how they're playing their alignment, but consistency matters. If it's a Medusa, whatever. They're going to kill it. It's going to try to surrender. You're probably trying to trick them. That's fine. Everybody knows it. Except maybe that one time that, you shouldn't have killed the Medusa because it was a polymorph princess. But anyway, uh, but you can have some real middle ground with hill giants and such. I know I love hill giants, but whatever. Does your party have a right to judge? Are they mandated by their gods, by the state? You know, you can argue it a lot of ways, but let your players argue it. You don't unless you've got a player in the or an NPC in the hunt. Uh, let them do their thing. Sun is in a great place. I've got this cool special effect going. Uh, Last page. Um, you don't have to plan out some weird twist ending every single time. Just occasionally. Um, you know what might the monster be able to offer? Maybe he knows information or where treasure might be or whatever. You ever think that the monsters talk to each other when the PCs aren't around? Does the hill giant in this little section talk to the I don't know, the Medusa over here? I guess if he did too much, he'd be a stone. He'd be a stone giant. Funny stuff. Uh, More twists. Maybe you're running a mid-range fight and there's some kind of intervention. Some powerful force, more powerful than the monsters, more powerful than the PCs, jump into the middle of things just for some complete purpose of their own. Maybe they pop in, beat the crap out of one goblin bad guy, and poof, back out. And all that's left is for the PCs and the remaining goblins to look at each other and wonder what the heck just happened. And go big. I mean, make it a freaking Solar or whatever. Some angelic being comes in, serves divine justice on one kobold, and leaves. The focus fire. In my notes, my script, I say that's just crazy talk. It's not. Do it. Do it. It'll be fun. Take away from this. You can do it. There are thousands of ways to run a fight the right way. It just takes practice. I'm in the wrap down now. Didn't segue very well there. Practice, innovate. Don't hesitate to make judgments. And if you find out later you're wrong, whatever. Sometimes a memorable game comes from a bad decision. Don't let your players push you around, but at the same time, listen, seek advice, welcome criticism, and over time you'll refine your own method. And even then, it's not going to be perfect every time, but if you can get even close to 50-50, your players will appreciate you, and you will never have a lack of them. Very glad that you all stopped by today. I love you all very much. I wish you the best in your lives. You deserve it. We have entered the peak of summer, and it's been a rough one for some people. Up here, it's not so bad. We go without air conditioning, so sometimes it's a little rough. You'll hear the fan running when I forget to turn it off. You'll see me sweat when I remember to turn it off. And I complain a lot, but it's okay. You guys stay hydrated. Have an absolutely great rest of the day. Cheers.